Okay, so bear with me. This is my first time trying to do this screen recording along with video recording. So let's see how it turns out. Anyway, one of these days I'll get real fancy and have all kinds of animations, but I wanted to get right to the point today regarding my training plan and what have you. So to give you a little bit of background, I use a service called My Pro Coach. It is a gentleman by the name of Phil Mosley out of the UK. If you use the application called Training Peaks, and that is showing on my screen on the right hand side, this is a very common tool used by, uh, I want to say, millions of athletes in order to track their training. It has the benefit of being able to connect to your coach, whoever your coach might be, and they can input your plan, your training from day to day, what you should be doing. With my pro coach, the reason I use that is one, it's relatively inexpensive compared to a personal coach. The flip of that is that you are pretty much self motivated. You have to be a self starter, a self driver. You don't need someone to come and tell you to get out of bed and work out every day. If you can do that, then this might be a solution for you. Um, I don't remember, they've changed the pricing every year. It's gone up a little bit every year, but I think I'm paying around 300 US dollars per year for my pro coach. And I've had a personal coaches before, and they can cost anywhere from 200 to $1,200 per month. Now, again, the personal touch is different. I had a personal coach that got me into triathlon initially for my first Ironman, and I was very happy with the results and that personal touch. I also had a different personal coach for my Ironman in 2022 in Florida. But for most of my training, I've been using my pro coach, and it has worked out well for me. But again, you're on your own in terms of motivation. You can connect with the coach, and I don't want to make this a commercial for my pro coach or Training Peaks. I've been happy with my pro coach, and it fits my current budget. So, just something to think about. That said, the training plan that you see in on the right hand side is what my coach has input into my Training Peaks calendar. So you give your coach access to your Training Peaks account, and they can input information or input your workouts there. And then they can track how well you're tracking to them. And I'll get into that in a second. Um, so, for what we're going to look at right now, a typical training plan is broken up into what's called blocks. You'll hear athletes talk about, I'm in a training block. I mentioned that on my way to a swim on video recently. And a block is simply a set of weeks that are pointed towards a specific goal in your training journey. If you look on the left hand side, you'll see I talk about what a block is. And most training plans that I've seen are broken up into these kind of blocks. And you'll hear periodization. I can barely say that word. But it's basically like you're gradually building up your body for race day so that you can be in peak performance on race day. Side note, you may you're not always going to be in peak condition. In fact, I don't even know if that's possible. And I don't think it's recommended only because there really isn't such a thing as being in peak top physical racing condition all the time. A race is a very specific thing. It's like a fighter getting ready for a boxing match. He wants to make weight, or a wrestler. They make the weight for that event. But most of the time when they're training, they're at different weights. They're building their body up. They need food for strength and that kind of thing. So so you train towards a specific goal, and that's what how these training plans are set up. So, talking about a block, the training plans that I get from my pro coach are basically turned into five different blocks. There's the prep block. Now, prep block is really for if you've been couch surfing for months. A prep block just wakes your body up. You start doing some very light exercises. You start doing, if you have, like, if you've never ridden a bike or whatever. This block is about really just telling your muscles you're about to start doing things to it that it hasn't experienced for a while or ever. In the My Pro Coach approach, the very first week of training, you do fitness testing. And most coaches do this. They want to create a baseline for where you are today to build up your training plan. They don't want to send you out, like we talked about in previous videos, they don't want to send you out on a 2,000-yard swim when you can't even tread water. They need to know where you are. So the first week of a block, of a prep block, in my case, is where are you today? And if you have some training and you're a little bit fit, that'll be different for everybody. But it basically says, this is where I am today. So during that week, you do a swim test, which is a specific number of yards that you swim, and you go all out for a certain amount of yards, and you use that number to say, this is the hardest I can swim for this amount of yards. And that becomes your baseline for setting up the rest of your training. And we'll talk about zones in a second here. Same for cycling and running. Cycling, there's a lot of different tests. I've mentioned in previous videos about your functional threshold power, your FTP. That is a test where you go all out for a certain amount of time, and based on the number that you did and whatever test you did, they come up with a power number that says this is your FTP, and the rest of your training will be based on this being your maximum power for an hour, so to speak. And then for running, same thing. It's usually like you warm up for 5 minutes and then you run as fast as you can, or hard as you can for 30 minutes. Now, all of these are very hard to do because you know that you can go, start running as hard as you can and go really fast for 2 minutes and then you're done, right? So you do have to kind of try to figure out a speed in any of these that I can maintain for the amount of time that I'm supposed to do it. The reality is, if you can't, that's fine. You stop or you slow down, and then you just keep going at whatever speed you can go and finish the time off. Then you have an average time that becomes your baseline. So it's really important that you push yourself during these, and you get better and better at estimating where you are as you go through your training journey. So that's the fitness test, and as I'll mention here, you take several fitness tests over the course of any training program, because ideally, as you're working out, you're getting more and more fit, you're getting more strong, you're getting stronger, so that your fitness tests should show progress as you move through. So the prep block can be anywhere from 1 to 3 phases, and we'll get into phases in the next slide. Then you have a base block, and base is where you're starting to build strength and endurance for what's coming, right? And it's like a pyramid. Think of a pyramid. The bigger the base, the higher the pyramid can be, right? The idea is to build a solid base. That's why time is important in terms of the time you start training and whenever your target race or whatever your goal is. The more time you have, the bigger you can make this base block, and the more time you have to build up to be a stronger athlete. So the base block is super important. It's really tough to I go on the venture to say darn near impossible to build up to these higher fitness levels and performance levels without a solid base. The next block is the build block. This is the toughest block in your training because this is where you're gonna really beat up on your muscles and your endurance, your intensities. As another side note, you'll hear a lot of training people say that they spend a lot of time in a softer zone. Most people talk about having 5 to 6 zones of training, and each zone, I won't get into zones today in detail, but they pretty much are what they sound like. You have zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, zone 4, zone 5. Each higher zone being harder than the last. With a zone 2 being, I can pretty much I'm sweating, but I can talk. I can pretty much maintain this for a couple of hours, 3 hours, whatever, 5 hours as you get fit. You're not killing yourself, but you're activating muscles. You'll hear a lot of coaches and athletes say that they spend about 80% of their training time in that zone. And that's because that's where all your very fine-tuned muscular, and I'm not a doctor, so please don't hold that against me, but all your important muscular neurons start firing properly, and you build up this ability to endure long races for an extended amount of time. You do spend time in high intensity where you'll be up in zone 3, zone 4. Zone 5 is kind of all out. Those are first, like you're doing a sprint. If you ever watch like the Tour de France and you see people going for the finish line, they're sprinting. They can't ride like that all day for the 100 miles they just finished. That zone 5 is I'm maxing out. Zone 4 is close to maxing out. Zone 3, some people call that a sweet spot. It's between your long endurance and between your I'm kind of working super hard here. But again, that's not detail of zone. It's just a high level version of it. And in the build block, you will spend a good deal of time in zone 2, zone 4, more than you have in the previous blocks because you're starting to really build up your endurance and your ability to last for a long ride. Peak block, you actually start to decrease the amount of time and intensities of your training. I kind of laugh at this one because I will show you here on my plan. Here, my coach set me up after I finished my race in Chattanooga here on the 18th of May. Uh, After a race, I normally go and I go off into the mountains by myself and recover mentally and physically. So you'll see, I still worked out a little bit, but they set me up for my Ironman in California. It was 21 weeks away from the day after my race. So they gave me the 24-week plan, uh, 3 weeks into it. Reason they could do that, and why I'm starting on the base phase and not a prep phase, is I've just finished training for. Sorry for all the red. Training for the half Iron or 70.3 in May, on May 18th of this year. So I have a certain level of fitness already. I don't need a prep block. I can go straight into base. And if you're really fit, they can put you right into build. But to be honest about it, I was not my fittest for that race. I kind of took it more lightly than I should have. And I'm glad that they threw me in a base phase. So as you can see, my base phase, it says phase 1. The reason it says that is that each of these blocks have multiple phases. So a block is a 4-week patch of time a phase is a 4-week patch of time inside of a block. All right. So peak block we talked about, and then taper block, the last block I'll mention here is right before your race. For an Ironman, it's about 2 weeks before your race. You really drop your training intensity to absorb all the training that you've been doing, let your body recover from all the working out you've been doing, all the training you've been doing. You still work out a little bit. You want to keep everything awake, but you actually lose a little bit of fitness so that when you wake up on race day, you feel the best you could possibly feel. Some people have a real hard time with taper in that they've been training so hard for so long. The taper phase is frustrating. I don't have that problem. I look forward to the taper phase, but that is true for some athletes. Okay, so as you see on my plan, which I'm scrolling through now, they started me in week 3 of base phase 1. Week 4 it's active recovery. So in this 4-week phase, 3 weeks are training, and then you have a week of recovery. And we can go on to the next slide on the left here. And in that week of recovery, it's like a mini taper. You back off a little bit on the training you were doing so that you can absorb the training that you've done already. It really is like, you talk about the stock market and when you go up a little bit and then down a tiny bit and up for 3 weeks, down a little, up for 3 weeks, down. That's how these plans are set up. Work hard for 3 weeks, then take a week where you're still training, you're still keeping your fitness at a level, keeping your fitness level, but you are giving your body a chance to heal itself. We'll talk a little bit when we get into our Fearless Fridays. I'll talk about recovery and how important that is. But your body gets a chance to heal itself, take advantage of all that training you're doing. So now you come back into the next block or next phase, and you are ready to rock and roll. You're stronger now. In these plans from my coach, here you say, he actually renamed it phase one, phase build. They put me into build already. So I finished off in base. They only gave me 4 weeks of base phase one. I've seen base. I've actually had base training from this coach that went 3 phases. So 12 weeks of base training before getting into build, right? And again, they have kind of pushed me forward because I've been training since November for the race in May. So I'm into build already, build phase one, week one. And since this is a build phase, there's no testing here. The test took place earlier in the base phase, and you kick through it. So you see build phase week two, phase one, week two, build phase one, week three, and then build phase one with active recovery again. It does jump around like that sometimes. Again, 4th week, you come back a little bit and you recover. So just to talk a little bit about these colors you see, for Training Peaks, based on what your coach says is the measuring metric, they give you a green, yellow, or red color to give your coach an opportunity and you an opportunity to see at a glance how well you've been maintaining your training. Green means that you did at least 80% of the prescribed training. And in the case of my coach, the metric that they use is time. So they say, okay, you're supposed to work out for an hour. And the workout is an hour long. If you do that hour, you get a green, or if you do whatever 48 minutes, whatever 80% of an hour is, you get a green color. Can you cheat by not doing the intensity and doing the time? Absolutely. Who are you cheating? Keep that in mind. You need to try to do these exercises as closely as prescribed by your coach as possible. Do not cheat yourself. You will be the one that pays for that on race day. Take it from me. Nobody else will pay for cheating. So there is really no cheating. This is an honor system to some extent. Other coaches use other metrics as to determine whether you hit green, yellow, or red. And Training Peaks, whatever metric they choose, they tell Training Peaks what the metric is for that exercise. And Training Peaks says, okay, if you hit 80% of this, you've met the goal of the exercise. All right, it's good enough for government work, as I used to say. Usually on my plan, red means I missed the exercise. It could be how I was feeling, could be I was traveling, could be anything. Yellow means I gave it a shot and couldn't quite pull it off. And you might have seen that in some of my previous videos, but just not on this plan. Build phase, okay, we went through that, phase one, week 4. And then after the 4th week of phase 1, you get into the 2nd phase of build, all right? So how many phases you have does depend on how much time you have before your race. I had 21 weeks after finishing my last race before Ironman California. So I didn't have time unfortunately I had training, but there wasn't time to build in a 3 block base phase, which would be 12 weeks of 21. So we focused on build, and they've got me in build phase 2, weeks 1, 2, and 3, and build week 4. Here we are, July 22nd. So we're getting closer to the actual date today. I just finished this recovery week, and then started what'll be my last build phase just before I went to Miami. So I went to Miami on the 2nd. You can put in things in your Training Peaks to say your availability is limited. Your coach can see that. With the premium version of Training Peaks, you can move stuff around too. Generally, it's not a good idea to move things around differently than what your coach has set up, because your coach has generally set it up to maximize how your training is progressing, as well as minimize the stress on your body. you can't put every exercise for the week on one day, right? You need time to recover from each one. And the way that my coach does it is tries to put hard exercises after easier exercises and vice versa, keeping things like strength training separated and what have you. I do move things sometimes, but I try to keep them in order. And if you miss like a 2 days on a specific workout or 3 days, coaches are going to recommend you just skip it. Try not to skip too many. It does not help you to skip workouts. Um, I laugh at the one they have an optional bike. I do the torque sessions. I don't really consider any training that shows up on my plan as optional, especially before an Ironman. But it is on here as optional. I did take that option on this particular week because I forget why I missed that one. But we did fly out to Miami on Saturday, which is normally my long bike ride day. This might be why, because I moved my long ride from Saturday to Friday. Friday is usually a rest day for me on this plan. And so I moved my ride from Saturday to Friday because I knew I'd be flying on Saturday. And I wanted to get that long ride in. If you're going to miss workouts, miss the optional workouts or miss the easier workouts. Try not to miss the big workouts. Missing 4.5 hour ride. I had to do that earlier this year. I won't get into why, so I don't make my wife mad. But it wasn't my fault. I had to do something family oriented and I missed a big ride. Very frustrating when you're trying to get ready for one of these big races. So um, if you're going to miss races, miss big ones. Sorry, miss small ones. Apologies for that. So anyway, this week, I after we got back from Miami on the 5th, I was feeling like crap, and I have a feeling it has to do with that run attempted on the 3rd on Sunday along Miami Beach in 99-degree weather. I did get my swim in on Monday out in Miami, 4,400 yards. Traveled on Tuesday, and Wednesday I did not have it. I just could not make myself get on my bike to do this Ironman power pyramid, same exercise I did earlier today. But I did get the rest of my workouts in for that week, and was happy for it. I also accidentally ended up walking. So I recorded this. I went to go swim, and I'd taken a ride share, and the ride share, my phone died as I called the ride share to pick me up. No one had a charger at the pool, whatever. And so feeling, brave, and I walked home almost 5 miles. Why I bring that up is because I recorded it, and it recorded what's called a stress score. Now, we won't get into that today, but you'll see these numbers on the right hand side, and they have to do with how much stress you've been putting on your body over the last week, over the last 7 weeks, and where your body sits in terms of fitness and fatigue. There are different takes on what these numbers actually mean. It's a general guide to say you've been working out X hard, and this is where you should be in terms of how much load. That CTL stands for chronic training load. Um, and we will, like I said, we'll get into this later. This is a little technical for what I wanted to show today. But yep, we're now here on the 12th of August, and I had my Ironman Power. Tomorrow's a big run. So this is how it's broken up. And as I mentioned in this previous slide, I'm in build phase 3, week 3. So when I recorded the video for swimming yesterday, said I'm starting a new week in this block. It's starting the 3rd week of phase 3 of the build. And then next week, I have a recovery week. But my plan also, every 8 weeks, I do another fitness test during a recovery week. So I actually have my fitness tests set up for next week. You'll see here, there's the run test where I warm up for 5 minutes and warm up for another 4 minutes, or yeah, I think that's 4 minutes, right? And then do a main set. And you basically run, like I said, you run your fastest sustainable pace for 30 minutes and record your average pace, right? And that sets the baseline for the rest of my running for the next 8 weeks. Same with the cycling, FTP, functional threshold power test, and then there's a swim test as well. So that's during my recovery week from this phase of training. And then I get into peak phase. So the peak phase is like I said, your intensity comes down a bit, becomes more race specific. They want you to do these bricks, and we'll talk about bricks later. But a brick is essentially you ride and then you run. And here they still have me doing a 5-hour ride on Saturday of next week, or 2 weeks from now, after my recovery week, and then getting off the bike and running for 20 minutes. And that kind of goes out throughout this peak phase. Peak phase week 1, phase week 2, phase 1 week 3, phase 1 week 4 is another recovery week, and then I get into phase 2. Well, here, starting that phase, peak phase, we're at September 22nd, less than a month from the race. So I have 2 weeks in that peak phase, and then we get into what they call penultimate. This is the taper block. And it is 2 weeks before the race. The race is down here on the 19th of October. So those 2 weeks, you bring training way down. You'll see here, 4,000 yards on Mondays went away, way back here. So I had my last 4,000 yard, or I did 4,400 yard. I had my last 4,000 yard swim yesterday before the race. That's the last time I'll swim that far. Interestingly enough, 4,000 yards, 4,000 meters is about the distance of the Ironman swim. Difference is you're not stopping, you're not doing pulls with a buoy between your legs, you're not doing any kind of testing or whatever. You're swimming, and you don't have a wall to grab onto. You have boats, but it's a little different for 4,000 meters. But that was the last one. The rest are all shorter as I approach race day. And that's how I know it's getting real, because these things are getting shorter. So that's a very high level look at how the training is split up. You've got, when I say I'm in a new block, I'm generally talking about a new phase, and I've got 4 weeks to hit that, and then 3 weeks of training, recovery, and how many phases are in a specific phase of my training depends on how much time I have before the race. So that'll do it for that. I hope that wasn't too much, but this is a complicated sport if you're new to it. But once you're in it, man, it's addictive, and you really do. You'll understand the lingo. You'll be throwing it around like nobody's business. And I look forward to hearing your comments on this, and to sharing other training with you as we move forward. All right. Thanks, everybody. This is Kenny. I'm going to sign off now. Black Iron Tribe. Please remember, you do not have to be the fastest, just fearless.
Giving you up, no, I ain't giving you up. Get love and try, giving you up, no, I ain't giving you up. Get love and try, giving you up, no.